Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Greetings of peace wherever you are joining in today. My name is Nertila Tsana, and I'll be hosting the event this morning. Welcome to day 3 of the Receiving Noor annual winter retreat. I'm praying that we find benefit and we continue to grow in practicing the reflection, the connection, and being more present with our Rabb, our sustainer, the here and now part. Dr. Yamina and our other speakers are sharing with us a natural model of learning and living, our deen, also being called fitri, the organic, the genuine way of witnessing the Tawheed. And as with everything, to taste the fruit of this approach, the key is implementing it. May we reach high level of consciousness, of understanding and insight, to feel the joy, the sweetness, and the sense of ease and tranquility, the tatma'inna of the divine presence. Ameen. This is the 5th session of the retreat. The last session will be tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The speaker this morning is our brother, Dr. Faraz. His bio and other speakers' bio are included in the manual document that was emailed to you. So next, I invite Brother Faraz to offer his presentation for us.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning and good evening. Where I am, it is 8 p.m. now. I am just trying to see, should I turn on my video, or is audio all right? Or is there any preference? Nertila, do you?
I mean, as you, I don't know, others might have a preference. So.
All right, well, let's turn it on anyway.
Thank you.
Okay. So welcome to all of you. Inshallah, you've woken up to a good morning. And this is the 5th session, and I have a sort of rough plan of what we are going to do in this the 2 hours that we have together. So I do plan to give people time to talk to each other. It may not happen exactly in the middle of the presentation, but hopefully towards the end, there'll be some questions, and also somewhere around the middle, there'll be questions that I will share with you that you can talk to each other about. So the subject or the topic that has brought us together is the idea of lasting peace, the notion of lasting peace. Not only the idea, but lasting peace itself. And so let me begin by unburdening myself a little bit before you, with you. You know, as a listener, there's some of you who know me and some don't, but as a listener, I guess that you assume that I am going to share whatever I would like you to know, and my concern is simply to honestly, my concern should be to simply present ideas that I think are worth sharing. But as a speaker, I am burdened by more than that. I am burdened by worries and thoughts of that that you would have a wonderful session, that I would say profound and beautiful things, that you would have a great experience and you would, as a result, get close to God and you would find it very beneficial and so on. These, these thoughts burden me and worry me. So the first thing I want to do is to ask you to indulge in an act of charity and allow me to unburden myself by saying things that you might find as a listener unnecessary, but that I as a speaker find necessary to say before I actually start. And that is the sort of declaration, or just to say that I free myself from this worry. I am not going to worry about whether you have a great session or you have a great experience or you get closer to God or you find what I say inspiring and beautiful. I would like to declare myself free from such worries and thoughts. So that was just an unburdening of myself. I would like not to be burdened by such concerns, so that I can just say what I actually have to say. Now, the subject that I want to talk about, or the retreat is about, is lasting peace, or the peace, the path of lasting peace. And I want to start by just sharing with you that there are lots of things that take away my peace. Lots of different things, lots of different worries that could cause me to lose my tranquility and peace. And I think what I want to start with is with myself, as I find myself, as I often find myself, by thinking about the worries that I have, the worries that disturb my peace. I call them worries. You can call them anything that disturbs your peace. You know, you can pick your favorite word. I have some example questions that resonate. So, for example, I may worry, you know, whether God is happy with me or not. Where do I stand before God? This worries me. What worries me, I lose my peace because I am worried whether somebody else is pleased with me or not. I worry whether I will get what I want. I worry whether I am wanting things that I should want. These sorts of worries take my peace away. Now, when I want to start thinking more generally about this, one way to think about sort of generally about the different worries can be specific examples, but to make it a little more general, I find myself, and when I talk about myself, I'm just hoping that things that I say would resonate with you, that you also find yourself in that state, in that way. I love things. I want things. I'm a creature that loves and desires and wants things, good things, beautiful things, for various reasons. That I love. I love what I love. I don't want to go into details right now just about, you know, what is it all the things I love and why I love them. But I find myself loving and wanting things, including being loved by others and wanted, appreciated. You can fill out the object of that desire or love. But I love and I want. I love more recently, my current situation is that I'm visiting my parents in Pakistan. They're old, they're well, alhamdulillah, but and uh, for example, love for my mother, I love for my mother to feel she's loved and appreciated. When I see that her want is not met, my peace is disturbed. I'm not at peace. So not only do I love things, I love that what others love also get what they want. I love to get what I want, and I love others to get what they want. I love myself to be happy. I want others to be happy. I want to help people. I want to be helped. I want, when I love someone or anything, I feel warm and good and fulfilled. When I'm loved, I feel warm. And so this is how I find myself, wanting and loving things. And in my life, I experienced again and again in different degrees that the love that warms me is also the love that burns me. And this is the predicament I find myself in as a human being. What I love is lovable. I don't feel I have much choice to not love, or I don't have much reason to not love, except that as I want and love in this world, I experience hurt, worry, disappointment, pain, loss of tranquility in some way. And this, again, in different degrees, from smaller degrees of disappointments, such as loving chocolate and sugar, which turns out not to be very good for me, to loving my son so much as to be worried to death about what trouble he might face or what might happen to him, to worries about losing or not losing loved ones or not finding what I love or want. So I find myself loving and wanting, and I find myself hurt without really having made any choice in the matter, hurt and disturbed, burdened, afflicted on account of this love and this wanting. And there are many ways and many things that I do to continue to want and love while continuing to ignore or minimize the afflictions that come in the wake of such love. This is me. And what I hope is that in what I've said, at least something would resonate with you. For me then, when I'm in this place, when I'm in my life, when I was, and when I am now, I face the choice of looking for a resolution or an answer to this paradox, this contradiction. I find myself loving and wanting, and I find myself hurt, and I find myself not wanting to be hurt. I am not at ease with this hurt. And at this point, one can make a choice, and I made a choice to say, you know, whoever has made me this way and the world this way should tell me what's going on. This, I need revelation, a message from the maker of this hurtful world, this world that I experience, this puzzling world, to tell me what's going on. I have my own, I can come up with some theories about what reality is, what's a mixed bag of good and bad. It's, you know, it's just what you make of it. You kind of look at the bright side of things. Like I can come up with theories to kind of try to manage this paradox. I tried to do that. It didn't work. It was too much work trying to live normally as if everything was normal. So at this point, one looks for revelation. At least for me, I look for revelation. To this, particularly this dilemma that I've generalized as it's sort of the problem of love. Now, one thing we can do maybe at this point is maybe I can give everyone maybe 2 or 3 minutes to just kind of silently reflect on what I've said. Just maybe a couple of minutes, maybe think in their life about issues or questions that my comments might speak to. The goal is to think about my peace and the disturbance of my peace, my poise, my ease, because on account of me wanting things and what I want and what I love disappointing me in some way, worrying me. So in the interest of time, again, one could do this, of course, more genuinely and authentically when is really one is with oneself, and to think back in life where these things have happened and we carry the scars of those, paradise lost, or love lost in our hearts, or in our present, or in the future, things in the future that look like trouble, that trouble is coming. So now at this point, I would like to take us to Revelation. And before I go to Revelation, I would like to make a very simple and perhaps a repetitive methodological point. But nevertheless, I'm going to say it in my words to be clear. when I go to Revelation, one of the things that I, as Faraz, think I need to be careful about is the choice between repeating Revelation and confirming the truth of Revelation, confirming that the claim it makes is actually true. And let me give a very simple, perhaps even unhelpful example, but just hopefully you will be charitable and find it useful. You know, imagine a person who says, I have a revelation, and my revelation, rather, we have a revelation that we believe in, and this revelation says that we are to believe that we will get bread at the market. So our revelation says, you know, oh, you who believe that you will get bread in the market. It's making up. And you meet this person and you say, so what, you know, that he tells you, we believe that we get bread at the market. And you ask them, why do you believe that you get bread at the market? And they tell you, well, our scripture says we get bread at the market. This would be a person who's repeating what their revelation says, that we get bread at the market. Versus a person who says, well, let's focus on the first one. If you ask this person, and so have you gone to the market and gotten bread? And they would say, no, we just believe we get bread at the market. I don't need to, it says that, but doesn't mean that I actually need to go and get bread at the market to eat and, you know, satisfy my hunger. It's something we believe. Even though I've never gone to the market, even though I don't feel very hungry, even though I don't really know what bread is and whether I will get it at the market and getting it will be useful for me and help me in some way, I believe we get bread at the market because that's what Revelation says. Now, compare this with a person who says, if Revelation says we get bread at the market, then it must be, you know, that I need bread. Do I need bread? I need to ask myself, do I need bread? Do I feel an absence of bread in my life? Am I hungry because maybe it's bread that I need? And maybe I'm not aware, I'm just sitting here and I'm not aware that there is actually a market that I can go to. And I have the means to actually walk over to the market. So I'm going to actually go to the market and see if there's something called bread. And if I go and they say, here's bread, and this is something you eat, and this is and this is how you eat it. And if I do actually buy it and get it, and then I use whatever dollars or money I have with me, I think, oh, I had these money in my pocket. You know, it's an example, so bear with me. And I never knew like what this was for. I was just carrying this. Oh, this is actually for this bread. Okay, so I'll get the bread. Oh, I'm feeling hungry, and I can eat this bread, and I can say, you know, this claim that we get bread at the market, not only is it true, I did get bread at the market, it is in its truth, also very beneficial for me. I really did need to get bread, and I didn't know I could get it at the market. And now, when what I've done is I have confirmed the truth of the claim of revelation. It really now has revealed something to me that I didn't know and needed to know after I have actually experienced eating the bread. I may not have felt I needed the bread really. I could have or may not have, but nevertheless, after I've gotten the bread and if I eat it and I do feel much stronger, much better, and do feel that all this money that I have actually is actually not just paper, but actually useful for buying bread, I would be confirming revelation. Now, as this, obtuse and trivial example, this sounds simple enough. It may not be as simple when people actually try to do this with whatever they claim to be revelation from God. But I don't want to focus on how difficult or easy it is. That's a different discussion. What I would like to say is it is very important and necessary. When we approach revelation, we can think, we might imagine that we're going to find tranquility and peace by repeating the claims of revelation. But this is something that each one of us has to decide. Is repeating the claim of revelation sufficient, reasonable for me to find that revelation useful and beneficial, for me to benefit from it? Or must I confirm what it says in order to benefit from its claims, which will then no longer be claims, but rather truths once I confirm them? And so I encourage you and myself that in the face of other people or your own inner thoughts telling you to not do this, to raise objections against such an approach because it seems difficult, because it seems impossible, because it seems unnecessary, I would encourage you to give room to the voice in you that might say, no, this actually makes sense. This is what my reason and my heart says, yeah, that's how it should be. So I encourage myself and everyone else to have the integrity and honesty and courage to take that position. Again, stay on the positive side. Don't think I'm saying if you don't do this, then you are dishonest and you don't have integrity. It's just that the benefit will not, in my view, manifest if I turn away from what I think is the honest way to approach revelation's claims by trying to see how may I confirm this to be true. And because I am coming to revelation as a result of what I've shared in the first part of my presentation, because what I am seeking from it, or at least personally me, what I was primarily seeking from it was an answer to my wants and desires, my needs. What I want I'm not able to get in an adequate, satisfactory way without losing my peace. I'm loving it in order to be more joyful, and the result is the opposite, that I'm actually losing my joy and my peace. And so in this, feeling trapped in this way, my one option I have is to cry out to whoever has made me, to say, you must tell me what's going on, and I should be able to confirm that, yes, you are right, that you are actually the message of my maker. So most people here are already familiar with this, so I apologize for the repetition. But nevertheless, it's important to keep in mind. So where do I go then? And I want to share with you a couple of two sets of verses from the Quran that I find interesting. And what I will say from here on will really only be a sketch of what I think the Quran is saying. And that would have to suffice in the time given and in the setting. And I can only hope to God and pray to God that God help me and God help you all and everyone find more and more truth and more truthful and more beneficial meanings beyond what I might share here. But with that in mind, Bismillah. Let's look at the verses. I have a title here. Also, or actually at this point, I'm going to share my screen with you now. So here is a couple of interesting verses in chapter 8. I will simply assert without argument that to me, it is a travesty to think that these verses or the other ones that I'm going to share are about some historical event, some war or battle or anything like that. Should you wish to pursue that line of argument with me, we can discuss in another place or time. But let's focus here in the same frame that we've been following from the beginning, and why I am here before this revelation. Chapter 8, verse 8 and 9. So verse 8 says, إِذْ تَسْتَغِيثُونَ رَبَّكُمْ. I don't know if I should interrupt my flow here, but I need to say this to what I think might be a concern for some listeners, which is, how am I interpreting in this way or that way? If you find yourself asking these questions, okay, Faraz is saying this, but I didn't say this. How is he able to do this? Try to resist this line of thought. Don't think about this of how or why somebody is asking this and not that. It's simply a matter. It's not a very important matter. So don't let that thought distract you. Even if it comes to you, ignore it, and simply go along uh, with me in terms of here's a person, this is what he's or she is understanding. You know, how and why we can, you know, worry about it later. إِسْتَغِيثُونَ رَبَّكُمْ. So when I read this, I find myself here. I am crying out. As I've explained to you I found myself crying out, having lost my peace or expecting to lose my peace on account of my wants and desires and what I love. And when I read this, I say, are you talking about me? It says, you are crying or when you cried, or you had been crying. I don't care about the tenses. Somebody's crying, somebody cried to your sustainer. And as far as I'm reading is, for me, I find if I'm the addressee, which I am, then I say, I have cried to my Lord for help, for aid. Istighasa, tastaghithun. I'm not an Arabist and I don't know Arabic, but a simple look up in any dictionary or translation is good enough. Crying out to my sustainer for help. Is this me? And I say, yeah, this is me. And it says, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَكُمْ. And he is thus responding to you. He responds to you thus. This is the kind of response I was expecting when I came to Revelation. So what is the response to my crying out for help? The Quran says, the claim is, أَنِّي مُمِدُّكُمْ بِأَلْفٍ مِّنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ مُرْدِفِينَ. So it says, translation, if somebody has a better one, you can give me a better translation. I'm not committed to this. I've changed around just to make it more understandable to myself. Anni mumiddukum. I am helping you. I am helping you. How are you helping me? Bi alfim min al malaika. With 1,000 angels following one upon another. It's interesting. What I can say here briefly, as malaika has something to do with my Lord's answer to my problem. My problem of when I cry out for help, the Quran's answer to the crier, the one crying out to his Lord for help, is, among other answers that people hear in this verse, it's istajaba lakum. The reply is anni mumiddukum bi alfin min al malaika, 1,000 angels following one upon another. Okay. Hold on to your wonder about what is this 1,000 angels? What's it got to do with my crying out for help? The next verse says, وَمَا جَعَلَهُ Allah. And God does not do this, or did not make this, or did not ordain it, however, whatever. God didn't do it except for what? What? what is this 1,000 angels I am being helped with? I have a question. That's what he said. How can I know what he's telling is true? Says, Illa bushra walitatma'inna bihi, be what? Bil bushra, with this news. Walitatma'inna bihi kulubukum. Wama an-nasru illa min indillah. Inna Allah azizun hakim. Translation says, and God does not do this except as a good news, so that your hearts should thereby be set at rest. As there is no help from anything except, this is my bracket, except that it bears a news about God. Which God? God, what? God as almighty and wise. These are the claims that I find the Quran makes in response to the one who's crying out for help, and for the one who wants tatma'inna, wants rest or ease or tranquility of the heart. The Quran's claim, which I haven't at all explained what this claim means or how can we say it is true, but just to, at a very general level, this is, I think, it is reasonable to say that these verses are relevant for anyone who cries out to God, to this, whoever is doing everything, to this one's answer to your cry for help. These verses are relevant. And what they claim, what they offer, is that a sustainer is helping me with 1,000 angels or thousands of angels as a way of bringing good news, good news. And it seems that this good news is related to God, who, it seems the verse is saying, if you can know that your Lord is mighty, glorious, and wise, if you can get this news, if you got this news from, we leave it, of course, people who are familiar with receiving Nur know that the place where you get this news is the world, out there and in yourself. This is, which is the, what they call creation. This is the place, either be just things or creation, but we know this. So I will find a news about a Lord being mighty and wise, and this will bring me an ease of my heart. This news that I will get, the Quran describes it as help through angels. This much, if I read these verses together back and forth, I understand. This is what is being offered to me. Let me read two verses. The first one is different, but the second one is the same. from chapter 3, verses 125 and 126. 125 says, Bala in tasbiru wa tattaqu wa yatukum min fawrihim hadha yumditkum rabbukum bi khamsati alaf min al-malaika musawwimin. Nay, but if you are patient in adversity and conscious of him, and the enemy should fall upon you of all of a sudden, your sustainer will aid you or aids you with 5,000 angels swooping down. Now, I know what the previous verses say, the 3,000 angels something, just we're not going to, again, be able to cover all of it. But just stay with where we are. Again, 5,000 angels. Not 3,000 that I think if there was only 3,000 that would be. 5,000 angels, more. If I am tasbiru and tattaku, and the enemy is upon me, I'm afflicted, the sustainer aids me against this affliction with 5,000 angels, again angels. Next verse says, وَمَا جَعَلَهُ اللَّهُ, like this, God has not made this except إِلَّا بُشْرَى لَكُمْ, except as a glad tiding, good news. What's the purpose of the good news? So that your hearts should thereby rest at ease, set at ease. تَطْمَئِنَّ قُلُوبَكُمْ بِهِ وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. And there is no help except from God. What is the help from God? The bushra. Bushra is, and this bushra seems to be then about, as the verse ends, min indillah, the verse seems to say, now when I'm telling you the help is a bushra from God, at this point you are thinking, who is God? How is this news a help? The news from God. And the answer is Allah Al-Aziz Al-Hakim. The God is mighty and wise. You can get this news. Have you gotten this news? Because this news is what I claim, the Quran claim, is that with which you're going to rest your heart at ease. So now I have a claim from the Quran about why I am not at ease, is that I haven't gotten the news, and how I can get to be at peace is when I get the news. Simple enough, I think. And I want to, one, highlight, it seems to me that if I am asking the Quran about peace of my heart, I need to have some concern or some questions about angels that the Quran mentions, what angels bearing good news as a help. And the simple short answer is, in this world, everything that is carrying in anything good, anything that is of help, is actually an angel bringing me news about a mighty and wise sustainer. This news about a mighty and wise sustainer, the Quran expects that I will use the reason that my Maker has already given me to ask questions like the following ones, his suggestions. And after I read these questions to you, I'm basically going to end and leave the rest for your discussion and reflection. I think the Quran is, the verses that I've presented to you are asking me to raise these questions, to ask and reflect on these questions. Is there news? Is there good news for me from the sustainer? Is this good news good because it is about the sustainer being mighty and wise? Is this how I see the good that I see? Is this how I understand the good that I see? Whatever I call good, whatever I love, whatever I want, that it is bearing the news of a sustainer who is mighty, who is able to give, and who is wise, who gives, who's giving this help is wise, and so only wise things are to be expected from him. Is the news about a sustainer who is mighty and all-wise sufficient and necessary to put my heart at ease, the heart that I started with, the heart that is afflicted? Is this news, this good news that is borne by angels as a help, about a mighty, almighty, and all-wise sustainer, sufficient? Is it necessary for my heart to be at ease? How can I look at the world and can I test this claim? Can I look at the world and say that, yes, there are beings helping me hear the news of a wise and mighty sustainer? And Sarah has a good suggestion. And again, these are hastily worded questions. You know, God willing, you can come up with more succinct and better questions that help you reflect about the verses. Because ultimately, again, we are looking to solve our problem. For me, the problem of love, the problem of wanting things. I find myself loving and wanting to live happily, wanting life for myself and others, my mother, my son, the world, the poor, everyone, everything. Wanting attention for myself, wanting others who crave attention, that they give the attention and love that they want, and so on. I find myself in this world. That's what disturbs my peace. And when I ask these first set of questions, and then if I do hear the news of a mighty and wise sustainer, what should I expect? What is to be expected from? This question doesn't make sense. It's not worded way. What is to be expected from a mighty and wise sustainer? For me, expected, not like, what can I expect then? If I get this news, Isa, what can I expect? And what is not possible to expect? If the sustainer is mighty and wise, if I get this news, what would I then not expect? And what would I deem unreasonable or impossible if I got this news of a mighty and a wise sustainer? What can I be safe about or sure about from a wise one? And what can be ruled out? And so basically what I think I'm asking myself to do is to say the might and glory and the wisdom of a sustainer is relevant to the question of finding my heart at ease and finding a lasting peace in my heart. And so I leave the moderators and everyone to allow people to reflect on these questions. Can we think of a situation where news of my Lord's wisdom I failed to see, or I could see, but I could see, maybe I failed, but I could see, or could I hear the news of a wise Lord or a mighty Lord me at ease in a situation where I'm currently not at ease, or I wasn't at ease, or I may not be at ease in the future. Does that news make a difference? Am I willing to hear such news about a mighty and wise sustainer? Am I willing to look at whatever it is that is bothering me? Whatever it is that bothered me or was bothering me or is afflicting me, in that, am I able to hear or see news? Or elsewhere, am I able to see news, hear news of a mighty and wise sustainer that helps me put my heart at ease in that situation? Can we do the same with might and as wisdom and might? Might looks to the capacity. Can the sustainer do it? Would his might and glory allow such and such? Would it permit this? Would it rule out that? Similarly, wisdom. Would wisdom allow this? If I get the news that the sustainer is wise, how does that help me put my heart at ease in a situation where it is not currently at ease? That's what I'm thinking about. And let me just close my remarks with the verse. الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. Those who are at peace and whose hearts find their rest in the remembrance of God, for verily in the remembrance of God, hearts find rest. So this is another verse, 13:28. Remembrance of God. In the previous verses we've seen God is described as the Almighty and the wise. This Almighty and wise is sending angels bearing good news, and I understand good news of the help that comes from my sustainer, who is described as wise and mighty. From whom comes the help? Did I hear the news? In whatever help there was, did I hear the news about the wise and mighty sustainer? So I haven't tried to answer all the questions that I've raised or I'm trying to raise. And like I said, I'm trying to just present a sketch of when I approach revelation, if I'm going to come to revelation and say, you tell me, you answer me, or you address this issue of the lasting peace of my heart, then I need to look at these verses, and these verses tell me about Malaika who are coming as a help.
And did you mean to leave this on the floor? Oh, okay.
And God willing, inshallah, in receiving Nur discussions and people who attend receiving Nur discussions, hopefully will find that as we understand where the Malaika are and what they are, what I see in the world, that I can actually hear news that they bear. And this news is a good news. With this good news, I can put my heart at ease about things that my heart is not at ease about. And so this is a kind of journey that I need to take with these verses into my life, into my world. And then either come back and say, no, there is no help for me from thousands of Malaika, like you say. There's no help. There's no good news that anything is bearing to me about any sustainer, no help of that kind. And I didn't find any sustainer who's mighty and wise, or I would say, you are right. You are right. I went to the, going back to my example, I went to the market. I got the bread, I ate it. It's what I needed. You are right. You said the truth, you told the truth, and it helped me. So in any case, if I want revelation to speak to me, I need to find myself as an addressee of revelation. I need to take its claim, take what it says. It is completely unexpected. I came to it, I'm in trouble, help me. It says, I help you with Malaika. And now I have to go back to the world I came from, to my life that I brought to it, and say, is it the case that some, revelation's guidance is learned behavior. I have to learn, I have to take it to my life and say, okay, let's see if that's your idea, God. I'm thinking this is you telling me. Let me see, I'm willing to take it. I'm going to take it and see if it does what you say it does. Is there really Bushra that brings tranquility to my heart? And that this is related to no help in the world I see coming from anything except a God, and this God from whom all help is coming is mighty and wise. And then therefore, if I confirm this to say, what can I expect from a mighty and a wise creator? And using perhaps that to address, if my sustainer is mighty, wouldn't it be unreasonable for me to think X, Y, Z? Or if really my sustainer is wise, as I see that, as I hear, as I heard that he is, wouldn't it be reasonable for me to expect this? And then I can be comfortable, at ease with wise ends, wise conclusions, and I can be at ease when I dismiss unwise conclusions or results. Hearing the news is crucial, and the Quran describes news-bearing realities, angels that our sustainer has put to help us for this purpose, for putting the heart at ease. Again, this is a sketch of a larger discussion. People who attend Receiving Noor get the benefit of having those larger discussions, the nuts and bolts of what I have presented in a just brief outline. And so, and also anyone who would take this, my closing dua is for me and for everyone else, that we look to our Maker for guidance, to our questions. May He help us see the guidance that we need, to accept and cherish it, to be helped by Him to find lasting peace. Thank you for your patience. I will stop here and leave time for you to be in groups to either discuss those questions that I'd listed, or to discuss it as a larger group. I'm not familiar with the best format for doing this. I will let someone else decide if the breakout rooms are better, and then we come back, or for comments and questions. But that's all I had to share, for what it's worth for now. So God's peace be with you all, and keep me in your prayer. God bless you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Faraz. I'm going to suggest that we have the breakout rooms now for about 10 minutes, and then we regroup for open floor discussion. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Inshallah. Okay, thank you.
Mhm. We within our group, we had I think we had two questions to answer. One is, can I confirm my sustainer is mighty and wise by looking at the word out there? And two, what in particular about my sustainer being mighty and wise will put me at ease? So the first part with the discussion, some of us had an issue with with the wisdom, with wisdom of, they could see the might and the beauty of flowers blooming, but they could not see the wisdom of them wilting, and they were stuck at that point. So so they could not take it to the second part of how would that give me ease? And then some of the group could see that the contrast of wilting with blooming is what gets our attention to it, and without it we would have taken it for granted and not noticed. So that would be wisdom, and if there is might and wisdom everywhere, why would it be denied to me? And so that's where we stopped.
I think to that, maybe it will help if I just reminded everyone that when we are speaking of the might and wisdom of the sustainer, of the creator, sustainer, then whatever I imagine to be my wisdom would have to be heard as news about his wisdom. So the wisdom that judges that a flower that is dying shouldn't die, that life should not end in death, this wisdom is not mine. It is a help from my sustainer, a news from my sustainer about his wisdom. When wisdom judges that a poor person should not die of an illness or should be able to afford bread for his family, or when wisdom judges that person X was rude and mean to person Y, they shouldn't have done it. This wisdom that judges that there should be kindness, this wisdom is not my wisdom, it is my sustainer's wisdom. And the question is, do I end up in a state of dis-ease because I say it's my wisdom? What if I heard the news about my sustainer's wisdom in this judgment, in this experience? Would my heart find ease? I don't know if it clarifies a little, but I hope you kind of see what I'm getting at. It is when we don't give up might and wisdom to the sustainer, when we don't hear the news about his wisdom, but rather we hear news about our wisdom. The verse is saying, you know, when you hear news about, when you don't hear, I mean, it's saying sort of in the opposite, because it's saying you will find ease when you get news, the good news. I can understand that it's trying to say when you don't find ease, this is the reason you're not getting the news about the sustainer's wisdom, you're getting something else. Then I have to check it. I have to check and see if that's the case, and then I have to decide, do I want to get this news of sustainer's wisdom, or do I want to say, no, this has nothing to do with God. He's just the one doing that out there, which I don't, my wisdom judges to be inadequate and not good enough. In which case, the Quran says, I will simply continue to suffer. So anyway, let me not take the mic too much.
So Dr. Faraz, Assalamu alaikum. So what are you saying is that if I'm looking at the flower and it's blooming and I'm enjoying it, and then I get really sad when it starts to wilt and die, then that what you're saying is that this wisdom or whatever that I'm feeling, it really, I have no ownership to it, that it's just, that it's Allah's wisdom, that it's being put in me to be feeling this way, that I have no ownership of my sadness or my feelings or whatever that I'm feeling about this beautiful flower that is dying right in front of me. You are muted, Faraz.
Muted.
Sorry. You could use that. You could put it that way. I don't have ownership. And I would, the same thing can be said in the way the verse talks about it. Do I hear the news? You know, I may not go into who owns it, doesn't own it. I don't know what owning or not owning feelings would look like because they're not something material. But the crux of the matter is, did I hear the news that they're telling me something about wherever they're coming from? What, as a reasoning human being, what can I say about the news? What news do they bring? What news is brought to me by the wisdom that judges whatever it judges in the world? You know, flower blooming. I rarely see a flower blooming and dying, so it's a bit far, it's experience distant for me. But for example, I see my mother wanting more attention from my father, and when he doesn't do it, she wilts like a flower wilts. She's not. And I see and I judge that I want her to get the care that and love, to feel loved. And this wisdom that judges that a person who is nice and who wants love should be loved, who is craving love should be loved. This wisdom, what news does it bear to me? What it sometimes the news it bears to me is my father's is really, should do better, or my mother's situation is terrible, whatever the news that I get. And of course, this is all very disturbing and burdensome and afflicting. The verse says, look, can you hear the news? I'm describing this reality to you that you've described already for yourself, and you're living it. You're living the consequence of it. If should you wish to listen to me, your maker, I'm telling you, I'm describing it differently. I'm going to describe it as angels bearing news about me. Are you willing to see that the wise and the mighty is me? Do you hear this news? And then, does your heart find any peace or ease when you get this news? And personally, I do. When I do get the news that the sustainer''s judgment is wisdom, judges that a person in need of love should be loved, or will be loved, ought to be loved. Wisdom judges, my wise sustainer is such a one. His wisdom is such a wisdom. His might, similarly, his might and wisdom judges that a person who lives a beautiful life should not just die and rot in the graveyard, in a grave. Wisdom does not judge that to be wise, for beauty to perish without any future. For there to be no future to something good is unwise. And this wisdom therefore judges that what is beautiful must last. A sustainer who is wise brings news to me of a wise existence, of a life given with wisdom, not with unwisdom and cruelty. So I get a news from these message-bearing angels, which is the Quran's description of what I call my feelings and about a sustainer. And they do put my heart at ease. When I think that really my mother is destined for her sustainer wishes for her perfect love and attention and care eternally, I do find this news to be very reassuring and puts me at ease. It puts her at ease when I speak to her about it. When I say, it's perfect. Your heart cries out when it doesn't get the love that it is seeking. It's beautiful that you cry for a companion and companionship that is going to be perfect and compassionate. It bears such wonderful news if it's about the sustainer. It bears a soul-crushing, depressing, cruel news when it is about my mother or father or their relationship or whatever else it might be. So yes, the flower, but most of the time we're surrounded by human beings that, and their predicaments and our own predicaments, human predicaments, put us at great dis-ease and affliction. What we want good for ourselves and others. And to hear the news of a wise sustainer in those, to not in your, I'm sorry, I'm missing the name, but whoever spoke, Huda, I guess, taking ownership harms me, just makes me not very happy. But hearing the news, I mean, disowning doesn't mean it's not my feeling. Well, it is with me, but it's simply that what is it doing for me? What news does it give me? And I think Revelations, what's revelatory about Revelation is a redescription of that reality, that experience. If you think it's this, all right, how about if I told you this is what you should think of it? How do you feel then? And so that's something for me to think about, and my different afflictions, to say, did I hear the news of my sustainer's wisdom? Or did I, for example, hear the news that whoever is going to do it is going to be me or someone else? Or there's a message in it about that the might, the glory, the power is actually the sustainers. So
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Faraz. That makes a lot of sense. I like what you said. It's not about me. And I think that clarifies it for me, because it's not about me. It's about seeing the face of Allah in everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Zubeida had her hand up. I invite you to take your comment at this time.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. I didn't get a chance to speak in the group. It was a bit of a short session, and I had a related comment to make in the group because Huda's experience of looking at flower, my experience also in that, first of all, everything that I look at outside is going to confirm the might and glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He created it. But with the flower situation and plant situation, when I see a flower dying and it coming back, it reaffirms to me that He is mighty and wise, because the flower died and it came back alive. And this reinforces to me the message all the time that life is temporary, we are going to die, and we are going to be brought back to life again. So it's a sign for me. The flower dying and coming back is a sign for me, and it helps me to see the might and the wisdom and the power of Allah, reminding me that whatever I'm going through is temporary. It's going to die, it's going to pass, and inshallah, things will get better. So when that flower comes back, things are getting better, but it's also a resurrection of life after death, which is going to be better, inshallah. So I just wanted to share that with the group because it's related to the flower experience. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sarah, I think your hand was up as well.
I have a lot to share. I just need a moment because I'm helping a small human finish using the bathroom. So if anyone else wants to start first.
Assalamu alaikum. Can I share something about the flower wilting? So something that came to me is that the wisdom of the flower wilting. So if I'm really honest, if the flower was always in bloom. So when the flower first blooms, I notice it, right? But then it's blooming. I don't really pay attention to it anymore because it's like, oh yeah, it's bloomed, it's there. But what's striking to me is that when the flower starts to wilt, I notice it again. And I start asking the question, why is it wilting? You know, who's making this happen? What is the purpose behind it wilting? So I think in the past, like these, like I like to garden. So sometimes like when, you know, I'm tending to a plant and it wouldn't come, or it would die, or it would be infested with bugs, it would make me upset. But then I realized those events of maybe it not you know, blooming or it wilting, like it kept drawing my attention and it kept giving me feelings. And now that I'm thinking about it, like these feelings came as forms of questions, like I don't like it when the flower wilts, or I don't like it when the slugs eat my plant. And so where is this dislike coming from? Like I'm made to dislike it. So if we were to take all of that out, I don't think those questions could ever arise. And frankly, I think I would just be bored of a flower always in bloom, because yeah, it's bloomed, it's blooming, like that's it. Like on that same level of care, concern, excitement, like this cycle that we go through, I think, like I said, I'm seeing so much wisdom in it. While like I know, you know, the same flowers will bloom in spring, but the fact that they're not in bloom right now because it's winter, like I'm looking forward to it. But if we lived in a place where it's just blooming all the time, nothing changed, would I live with this anticipation, this excitement? I don't know. So yeah, I just thought I would share.
Tasnia, I'm going to piggyback off of you. I think I see these as signs, as reminders of the Almighty, the Wise, that is working. I mean, you know, if we think of this as the operations of the universe, there is somebody in the background working and operating the functioning of everything that's going on around us. It's not just things that happen randomly, but there is a very wise and a very thought out plan behind everything that happens. Although we may interpret it as somewhat haphazard, but there is a plan in place.
Yes, Sarah, please go ahead.
Thank you for everything. Faraz, mashallah, like, thank you so much for the sharing, the sincere sharing that was really full of guidance and inspiration. The verses were extremely profound. I have them copied, but if you want to put them on the screen. I thought that the first ayah was extremely profound to start with. I took a snapshot of it, so I'm just going to go there. Because إِذْ تَسْتَغِيثُونَ was the first two words. So when you do this, تَسْتَغِيثُونَ. And immediately my attention was brought to يَا حَيُّ يَا قَيُّومْ بِرَحْمَتِكَ أَسْتَغِيث, because that's what I shared in what came to me in my sharing, that the Prophet would use the messenger of God, who we understand represents the pinnacle of consciousness of God, would use this dua as a representation of his consciousness of the universe. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum birahmatika astaghith. And so it was the same word, like this astaghith. But in this ayah, it says istastaghithuna rabbakum. It doesn't say Hayyu Ya Qayyum, right? So then I'm like, wow, that is the prerequisite right there. Like, istastaghithuna rabbakum, not istastaghithuna anyone else. So it's like, not only do I recognize this cry, because how many times do I have a cry for help? A lot. How many times do I istaghith Rabbi with that cry? Very minimal. So for example, it reminds me of a comment I believe Huda shared, and the flower comment that you used, Tasnia, also reminds me of what Huda shared. Like, a lot of times we're all faced with this question. I've asked it plenty times in halaqah, like, why hardship with ease? Like, why do we have to taste hardship? And, you know, Tasnia beautifully put it together. Like, without, you know, hardship, ease wouldn't really taste like ease. It would just be some sort of flat line of normalcy. Yeah, he broke it. And so for me, it means like Rabbakum already implies that there's a relationship that I'm turning to. But that relationship, now the Quran is assuming, yeah, Coco, that's the ball. There's that, so that relationship, the speaker is assuming that I've already established this relationship with Rabb. And I'm gonna go to, just if we can pause the screen as it is, like Aziz Hakim. It says, Inna Allah Aziz Hakim in the next verse. So that's also a conclusion that the speaker is like this vibe that these two ayat are speaking to me, say to me, like, you will receive this if you istaghith Rabbik, and if you have this conclusion that you've seen this Rabb now in the next verse says is Allah, is the one who is the source of everything, right? The God, the source of all that exists, which is another immense name of power, Aziz, Hakim. So for me, I just saw the connection between Rabbuna Rabbus Samawati wal Ard. Like, if I saw that this one that's taking care of me, again, is treating the entire universe, there's the connection that always needs to be in place, like the sisters shared in their reflections, is acting, this hand that's taking care of me is acting with extreme might and wisdom in the universe. Do I see that? Yes, like I can say, I can see how there's extreme might and power and wisdom in the universe, but I might not always link that to my new problem or my new calamity. So it says, so when you istaghith rabbakum, you already have this relationship that you can turn back to. Like, I know the one who takes care of the whole universe with wisdom and power is my Rabb. So if I had that prerequisite, then I can kind of fall back on it or run to it. It's like, for me, the question is, who do you run to? Because maybe you turn away and you say, I don't like this. Like, I can't believe this, or why this? And if that is the first reaction, which is often the case, right? Like, something happens to you, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe this happened. Why would they? Then that's not istaghithuna rabbakum. Then you just slam the door on this opportunity because we chose not to remember that there is a one that has supervision over the whole universe, that is Aziz and Hakim in the universe, and I'm included in that. And I love how fastajaba lakum, like, as soon as you turn to your Rabb, meaning you have this relationship with the one that cares, that educates. Yes. Then istajaba lakum. And then what came to me too is in this ayah is that the one that you have up now on the screen. In tasbiru, like, patience has never been my strong suit ever. But from piggybacking now off of what I shared, off of what Isra shared after, Dr. Yamina and Faraz, tasbiru is born out of the combination of consciousness and trust. Like, with consciousness and trust, there is a birth of patience because you're seeing God acting in the universe. You know that this is the one taking care. Let's say Rabb, but not God. You're seeing this Rabb. Then you become a candidate to receive, I think, the guidance that's beautifully displayed here. And I love that Aziz and Hakim is repeated twice. Like there's extreme emphasis on receiving tatma'in with Aziz Hakim as my Rabb. I just love that connection. That's all. Thank you.
I guess to break the silence, I would say, when I cry out, for example, when I cry out for justice, when I cry out for love, the verse is saying these your cryings, see them, understand them as your seeking of the Lord who is just. Don't think this is just you. You know, when you're upset with something, for example, when you get upset with, I don't know, cruelty, you can either look at it as, oh, I'm just upset with cruelty, you know, I need to just do better, I'm not, you know, or you can say, this is a cry, a seeking of the just and the merciful one. So it is the same reality that I experience that I need not deny, but it goes from being a nuisance and a bothersome, you know, self-description, you know, I'm such a person, I'm that kind of a person, I need to do more this or that, to this is the news I'm getting about my whoever is the Lord. And that Lord, the verse claims, you can test it, you will find the news that is brought to you in your cries is of a Lord who is wise and mighty and glorious. So in other words, you will find yourself crying and looking towards wisdom. You would be and looking towards might and glory, seeking it. This is your crying to your Lord. And in your cries, you would therefore find who your Lord is. Through this need, through this cry, you will find who your Lord is. And then you will find out what to expect from such a Lord. So from a wise and just Lord, you expect all injustices to be compensated. Then so I would reason accordingly and say, yeah, obviously, you know, the just, you know, the one that is so just must be, I can be sure that I can be safe that would do this and not do that. All right, so let me stop. There's someone.
Yes, there is a hand up, Sister Khatija El Kholi. Glad to see you here.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm also glad to be with you, and thank you, Brother Faraz, for all this nice talk. It was such touching. I have a quick question. All the time we have, like for myself, I know that I have to be making istighatha from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any difficulty that I face. But in the real life, when it comes to the difficulty at the same time, I don't know how to talk to him, and instead of talking to anyone, like to a friend or something, like I don't know how to talk to him in the same way I'm talking to someone else. And sometimes I make dua, but I hope that I can reach to the point that instead of talking to anyone, just whatever the speech that I'm going to talk to someone, just to talk to him. And I tried, but sometimes I couldn't reach that point. So do you have any kind of comments or tips how to talk
Yes.
to him about like that. Thank you.
Yes, I do. I do have.
That's great.
But, but your answer, your question right now weighs a lot. So in a balance, your question weighs a lot. My answer weighs very little. So it may not bring the balance up, but this answer sounds little, but my prayer for me and you is we will see that this answer is actually not little. It is big enough to make your question solved. You said you want to make istikhasa with God. How will you do it? Listen to God speaking to you. You're not going to talk to God, or the way you're going to talk to God is to hear him talking to you. Here, in your desire for talking to him, he's talking to you. When you hear him talking to you, that's how you will speak to him. If you didn't, when I don't hear him talking to me, I cannot reach him. In other words, I don't reach him, he reaches me. He already reaches me. I just need to realize. So he's reaching me in the Quran. He's saying, I'm speaking to you. I'm speaking to you by sending you this news about how mighty I am, how merciful I am. So the question for you becomes, or for me becomes, how do I hear this news? How do I hear God speaking to me? So he said, so I don't hear him speaking to me because I put my hand on the mouth of the messenger. And I say, you are, for example, the messenger is wisdom. I say, you are my wisdom. Keep quiet. Don't say, you are telling me of my Lord's wisdom. You are speaking to me from my maker. Your speech to me from my maker, telling me, I am your wise Lord. I don't hear this. I go to the burning bush like Moses. How did Moses? God says, I am your Lord. Wherever you seek warmth, whatever you seek good, I am your Lord. I have to hear it like Moses. When I hear Lord, that's how I speak to my Lord. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but it's a very good question. It is my question. How do I get in touch with my Lord? And the answer is, he's in touch with me.
Yeah, thank you for for this. And actually, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, I sometimes hear from him. This is a good thing that you mentioned. In some such situations, like I can hear, or I can, come to my mind whatever the wisdom in something, or a message, or something like that. So hopefully I will be in the right path and reach to the next step, to be able to talk only with him. Because sometimes also I talk to him, but not only. That's what I hope, that it would be only him, inshallah. And maybe in regards to this nice talk about the wisdom behind things that we might not seeing it at the same time, I would like to share a small story that happened to me, if it's okay, which sounds in the very beginning very saddened, and then subhanallah turns that this is a khair. So last year, just after our retreat, my son came to be treated at the NIH, and this is the biggest hospital in the world, and he have been in many hospitals before, and he did a lot of endoscopies and colonoscopies before. But subhanallah, he was doing a just investigation colonoscopy, and his colon was perforated. So there was a hole by mistake from the doctor, and it was a fatal situation, and he was in the ICU, and he had to go through a surgery. It was very sad situation, but subhanallah, and I was alone with him at that time. But subhanallah, at this time, Allah gave me kind of calmness, that there is a wisdom behind it. Like, it's like he is in the best hospital in the world. He did this several times. He is much better than before. However, this happened. So there should be a message. However, I didn't see it at that time, but I calmed down, and even the doctor cried. And I told her, like, this is a fate, and alhamdulillah that he is alive. And just like by the end of that month, it was the beginning of March. By the end of the March, the COVID situation happened, and he has to stay in the hospital for a long time, which was kind of safe for him. Doctors were able to take care of him for a longer time, and alhamdulillah, he became much better, and his hole has been healed and his wound. So subhanallah, there was a khair, although it looks like very difficult situation, but there was a wisdom and khair behind it. So just an example for someone, like if something seems like it's not the best thing, inshallah there is khair behind it. And thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. The time is up. I can read some of the latest things in the chat, and then we'll conclude for the morning session. Inshallah, we'll see you all later today, this evening. So this is an ayah, I think from Dr. Yamina here, ayah from Surah 30, ayah 50. Look then at the imprints of God's mercy, how he restores the earth to life after death. This same God is the one who will return people to life after death. He has power over all things. And Ziba has a question. Is the feeling of my seeking the attention and love coming again and again to me, does it mean that I haven't built complete trust in him, only him being the source? And Zara saying that she loved in your desire to talk to him, is him talking to you. Indeed, profound. Okay. That's the input from the chat book. You know, some of them are going to be part of the silent meditation as Sarah is suggesting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Faraz, and to the participants. Inshallah, all is well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Just wanted to add, Nartila, before we close, that tonight's session will be more interactive. So if we continue your meditations and be willing to bring what you have been benefiting from, any lingering questions or any comments. So it will be even more interactive tonight, inshallah.
Thank you, everyone. Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for another beautiful program.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن